The business community has been one of the most interesting groups of folks we've been able to empower, and it's been really a fun journey. And we come to this with some really incredible tools. This is the most amazing tool. I'll have Stephanie send this to you, but this is Relational Wellness in the Workplace. This was a very, very high quality document and research project that was managed by Matt Turvey. He was working for Prepare and Rich at the time, which is the parent company is Life Innovations. But they did an amazing study on how important it is to build relational health in the workplace. This is what legitimizes you being able to speak to people in the business community. And one of the things that came out of this document that I thought is just so helpful, it says, imagine if your company aligned with other companies in your community to support healthy relationships using some of the suggestions outlined in this report. The relational and economic effects would be far-reaching for your company, for other companies, and for the community at large. That's a quote certainly of Matt Turvey, and certainly so true. But this is really about the idea that employees succeeding in relationships, they both increase profitability, but also, as we know, this is very intuitive. Employees in failing relationships decrease profitability. Profitability is what people in the workplace, and especially CEOs, think about. That's their bottom line. They are very connected to the bottom line also. And one of the things that the report shows that in the year following marital dissolution, employees lost an average of over 168 hours of work time. This means our work in serving businesses is significant. And this is one of the graphics that's included in the report. I included it in the slide deck because I thought it was very helpful, is that when you begin at the top of this with problematic personal relationships, yes, it increases life stress, but it also increases work-life conflict, and which leads to a negative work environment, which on the personal side leads to poor health and increased healthcare costs. But ultimately, they both point to the bottom outcome, which is it all leads to decreased profit and productivity.
Wow.
And failing relationships impact the bottom line, but there's more to the story. Employees with healthy relationships increase the long-term profitability of the company they serve. And this is really interesting because business leaders are so dialed into ROI, is that when this report reported that when companies invest in their workers in a relational wellness approach, the ROI can range from $1.50 to $6.85 for every dollar spent. But again, the most important reason why business leaders do this is because they're human beings and they care deeply about the people that they serve alongside. You know what it's like to work in a business is that you build really strong relationships inside your business community. And so there's really two big questions that you as a CMI leader can help a business leader with. And number one is, what can a business leader do? This is one of the biggest roadblocks that we have found, is that business leaders don't feel like they're qualified to speak into this subject area. We're going to prove later on that that's not true. And also, should relational wellness be the concern of business owners and leaders? Do they have the right to speak into this? This is a very private matter, and especially in the workplace, employees and employers themselves, they value privacy, and so we're going to answer some of those questions. But the answer to both questions is yes. And so, what can a business leader do? So we met with a large number of CEOs that were part of the C12 network in San Antonio. We asked them, what is it uniquely that we can do? And over a period of a year, this is what we decided were 4 things a business leader could do. Number one, set a good example in your own marriage. Are you investing in your own marriage? Are you talking about it appropriately within the circles that you communicate to? Number 2, be intentional about relationships beyond marriage, just relationships in general, healthy relationships among employees. Just help the going concern. Create family-friendly policies. And number 4, provide resources as is appropriate. And we're going to talk about ways that business leaders can do that. Okay, so what we found was there's 3 different groups of people inside of companies that we have a unique ability to serve. We have a unique ability to serve the CEO or other people in the C-suite. The HR manager typically is very much in tune with relationships and the culture that they're creating within their company. So the HR manager is often somebody that we would see brought into those conversations. And also, are there key divisional leaders that would want to be brought into these conversations? And so I'm going to unpack these 3 areas of ways that we can serve business leaders. We can educate, we can resource, and we can partner with them. And I'm going to unpack each one. Okay, so to educate means to invest in the CEO's marriage themselves. As you know, being a leader in any kind of an organization can be a very lonely proposition. And a lot of times those marriages are under severe stress. And groups like the C12 group, there's a book called Tandem by Robert and Kaylee, and their last name is spelled Fukui. They wrote a book called Tandem, and it's a book written about marriages of entrepreneurs. And so I have answered a surprising number of calls that came from the cell phone of a CEO asking for a very private moment of advice when they're struggling with the incredible intensity of what they deal with on a daily basis and how it can impact their marriage. The second thing is we help leaders answer the why question. This goes back to what I said before, which is so many CEOs are so reluctant to talk about this because marriage is such a private thing. It's such a personal thing. And you really have to help them understand why it is appropriate in certain times and places to speak into this. Thirdly is to create appropriate personal transparency in the workplace. There's a couple different angles that this addresses. Number one is that there are a lot of incidences of infidelity that arise in the workplace. People that work very closely together can build a strong connection. And we've advised people in C-suite and other parts of the business is like, speak openly about how much you enjoy being married to your spouse. And that in itself almost instantly reduces any risk of anything happening. And also it's important for a CEO to speak positively about their marriage, not to say that they have a perfect marriage, but to indicate that marriage is important to them, and that the marriages that are represented by the employees are important to them as well. And then fourthly, how do you balance this privacy and openness with relational care in the workplace? Those are 4 things that we've had many conversations with CEOs about. The second thing we want to do is resource them, and I'm going to break this second part down into further depth, is that we want to resource them with the best practices, the best resources, and the referral networks. And let me unpack each of those. This is number 2 of how we help CEOs. So for best practices, we always give them that document, Relational Wellness in the Workplace, which legitimizes their ability to speak into this. Next is that there is a great resource called Safe Conversations in Corporations that's written by this classic partnership of Helen Hunt and Harville Hendricks. As you know, this is a married couple, and they have spent a lot of time thinking about how to have conversations in the workplace. This is a huge best practice that CEOs can learn from. And then the C12 group themselves. The C12 group surprisingly puts an enormous emphasis on the health of the marriage of the CEO. There's just so much to learn from the folks at C12. So we're talking about best practices, but also best resources. And resources are really nuanced in the corporate world, because one thing that we found is that when we were working with churches, cost was always an issue, and quality wasn't as big of an issue with churches as cost was. You know, they wanted us to help them find date nights and other things that were of low cost for their church members. But the corporations are very different. They're very interested in high quality, and they're less concerned about the cost. And so we've built a lot of relationships between churches and Weekend Remember, because Weekend Remember is such a high quality event. And so that's been a great connection or resource for them. And the second is that we felt like we needed to have a larger understanding of the evidence-based resources that are available. So PrEP, Adventures in Marriage, Prepare and Rich, these are all, as you know, evidence-based resources. And so they're very appropriate for workplace settings. And then surveys, and I just had to chuckle when I saw this, because you guys are creating some incredible survey technology that would be really helpful to corporations, something we need to talk more about. Okay, and finally, under this second component is referral networks. We like to, connect them into enrichment opportunities. We encourage the CEOs to share our newsletter sign-up page. We connect them to counselors and intensives. Again, the CMI newsletter. We've even talked about, we've never done this, but this is something we should have been doing 10 years ago, is create a workplace poster. So many CEOs said, can you just create a workplace poster that we can put in the break room alongside all the other legal posters that have to be there, but where an employee could discreetly and privately find information about how to get help.
That's great. That's gold right there.
That's really good.
Thank you. And finally, to partner. So we've partnered with corporations to do lunch and learn trainings. And I'll tell you, I wanted to share a particular story. There's a guy here in San Antonio who has the most amazing manufacturing company. He manufactures all these precision metal objects. I forgot what they're all used for. But he's known all over the country. He's actually known all over the world for his manufacturing expertise. And we as a team really enjoyed going into his workplace and looking at his operation and seeing the excellence that of how they do their work, and just developing an appreciation of what goes on inside some of these businesses. But at the same time, we connected him to counselors and coaches that would come in and do lunch and learn trainings on very basic things like just relationship skills. So we used PrEP. We used kind of PrEP 101, the most basic relationship skills building. We did a lunch and learn with him on speaker listener technique. Very, very basic stuff, but it was very helpful to him. And so lunch and learn training is an opportunity, certainly inviting them to date night events. There's been a lot of experimentation with doing date nights at Chick-fil-A locations. And Chick-fil-A, the culture, as you know, of Chick-fil-A is just ripe for partnership, especially around family and marriage. There was a really cool project done in Florida where they did a citywide date night event where every Chick-fil-A in the city on a Tuesday night opened up, and they put tablecloths on the Chick-fil-A's tables and all over the city, and they promoted it. They promoted it on these paper posters that they put in their plastic trays. So they promoted the date night event themselves, and then the marriage initiative supported it kind of at the Air Force level. And there's really been some fun things done. And then again, referral networks, how to connect them to help for their struggling marriages. Okay, and so I want to wrap up here, is that when a CMI thinks about empowering people across this entire ecosystem of maybe 100 different roles in 10 different sectors, there's what we call primary roles and supportive roles. The primary roles are people that see themselves primarily on the front lines of serving marriages. That's counselors, church leaders. These are people that see themselves on the front lines. But the supportive roles are people in the other sectors like education and healthcare and business and so forth. And they don't see their work as being advancing marriage, but they play an important supportive role. And what we found is that people in supportive roles actually have more stickiness to the movement. And why is it? It's because on this next slide is that when you empower people in supportive roles, you're empowering them to have an integrated ministry or mission inside of their daily profession, something that leverages their influence, position, and unique experiences. What you're doing is you're making what they're already doing better. And the most classic example of this was when we empowered divorce attorneys to add a question to their intake protocol, which was add the question, do you feel like there's any hope for this marriage? And divorce attorneys have told us universally that improves their practice and they'll never stop doing it. And the same thing goes with business leaders. If you improve how they do business, then they're going to stay in the game because, again, you're not asking them to do something new. You're asking them to do what they're already doing, but better.